Chris Combs breaks silence. Why he walked away from TLC and 1,000-pound sisters forever. The untold story of the man who is the backbone of the Slayton family and why he finally said enough. We have all watched him. For years, Chris Combs has been the steady hand, the voice of reason, the brother who showed up when everyone else was falling apart. He was the one who stepped in when Amy got pregnant and couldn't be Tammy's weight loss buddy anymore. He was the one who pushed through his own health issues, his own demons, his own weight struggles to get surgery and transform his life. And he was the one who stood there, episode after episode, trying to hold together a family that seemed determined to tear itself apart. Now, he's walked away. Not just from the drama, not just from the constant bickering of his siblings, but from TLC, from the show that made him a household name, from the cameras that followed his every move for years. And for the first time, Chris Combs is breaking his silence on why he really left 1,000-pound sisters and what the network did that finally pushed him over the edge. This isn't just another reality TV gossip story. This is the real story of a man who gave everything to a show, to his family, and to a network that never gave him the respect he deserved. This is the story of what happens when reality television stops being about real people and starts being about ratings. And this is the story of one man who had the courage to say enough and walk away from it all. Before Chris Combs became the beloved brother on 1,000-pound sisters, he was just another guy in Kentucky trying to make a living. He worked at McDonald's, where he was a manager, and that's where he met his wife, Brittany. They hit it off immediately, despite their contrasting personalities. She was quiet, calm, and reserved. He was loud, passionate, and always in the middle of family chaos. "I just wanted to help my sisters," Chris said in a recent interview, reflecting on why he initially agreed to be on the show. "Amy was losing weight and doing well, but Tammy was struggling. And I knew I was struggling too. I was over 480 pounds at my heaviest. I couldn't put my own socks on. I couldn't tie my shoes. I was dependent on my wife for things that a man should be able to do for himself. And I knew I needed to change." He saw the show as an opportunity. A way to get the help he needed. A way to inspire his daughter to lose weight. A way to finally take control of his life. But more than anything, he saw it as a way to help Tammy. He had watched his half-sister struggle for years. He had seen the weight climb, the health decline, and the emotional spiral. And he couldn't just sit back and watch her die. "You have to understand something about this family," Chris continued. "We grew up with nothing. We had to fight for everything we got. And when you come from a background like that, you learn that family is all you have. You protect your family. You fight for your family. You don't abandon them when things get hard. That's just not how we were raised." So Chris said yes to the cameras. He said yes to the producers. He said yes to the constant filming, the endless confessionals, the manufactured drama. And he did it all for one reason, family. But loyalty has a cost. And for Chris Combs, that cost was his peace of mind, his privacy, and eventually his reputation. When Chris first joined the show in season 2, he was presented as the supportive brother, the man who stepped in when Amy got pregnant and couldn't be Tammy's weight loss buddy anymore. He went through the grueling process of qualifying for weight loss surgery. He had to quit smoking, pass a lung function test despite his asthma, and lose enough weight to be eligible for the procedure. It wasn't easy. His asthma was a constant battle. "My asthma is well maintained with my prescriptions," he explained in a TikTok video. "If I don't have any medicine, my lungs work at 55%, and if I do have my medicine regularly like I'm supposed to, it's upwards between 80 and 90. But he did it. He made it through the surgery. He dropped from nearly 500 pounds to under 350. He went down 10 pant sizes. He finally bought the 3-piece suit he had wanted since he was a kid. He was making real progress, real changes, real transformation. And he was doing it on camera for the world to see. But the cameras didn't just capture the triumphs. They captured the struggles too. They captured the fights with Tammy, the moments when he walked away from the table because she wasn't ready to change. They captured his frustrations, his disappointments, his desperate attempts to keep the family together. And what they showed on television wasn't always the full picture. The turning point for Chris came during the filming of a renovation project. He had found a house, fixed it up, and offered it to Tammy as a place to live. It was supposed to be a happy moment, a big brother taking care of his little sister. But the way TLC presented it on air was very different from what actually happened. During the show, viewers saw Chris and his wife Brittany arguing about kitchen renovations. Brittany suggested expanding the space, and Chris resisted. Fans immediately took sides. Some praised Chris for being a wonderful brother to Tammy. Others criticized him for how he spoke to his wife. But what viewers didn't see was the full picture. Brittany had just lost her mother a month before filming began. She was grieving. She was trying to be supportive of Chris's efforts to help his sister while dealing with her own personal loss. And instead of showing compassion for what she was going through, TLC aired the argument without context, making her look demanding and ungrateful. Brittany said some of what viewers see on the show is not true, one fan reported after watching a Chris Combs TikTok live. She said she gets along with Amy and that it's the editing that makes her look like she doesn't. The show's portrayal of their relationship is misleading and not what it is in real life. This wasn't the first time Chris had felt betrayed by the editing. He had seen it happen to his sisters too. He had watched TLC edit conversations, cherry-pick sound bites, and manufacture drama for ratings. But when it started happening to his wife, the woman he described as his rock, he knew something had to change. "You have to understand," Chris said, his voice filled with emotion. "Brittany is the quiet one. She doesn't give the producers a lot of material to work with because she's never talking at all in other scenes. So when they want drama, they edit her to look a certain way. They take her out of context. They make her look like the bad guy. And it's just not fair." What most fans don't realize is that reality television is anything but reality. The production company rents out an interview house nearby where the cast lives, in a central location. They film all the sit-down interviews in the same room, just changing the backgrounds to make it look like different locations. They use body doubles to set up shots. They put actors in chairs to get the lighting and camera angles right before the real cast members arrive. It's all about creating the illusion of reality, a former production crew member revealed. They design different backgrounds. If you look over here, there's some blue, that's Amy's background, and she's positioned a little differently than Chris, which has a whole different background. They use markers to remember where to put the furniture. They film interviews during the entire season, not just in one setting. And that's just the confessionals. The storylines are even more manufactured. Producers decide what to highlight, what to cut, and what to reframe. They choose which fights to show and which to edit out. They decide who gets the hero edit and who gets the villain edit. And more often than not, the person who suffers the most is the one who is most vulnerable, most honest, and most willing to share their real life with the cameras. Chris had seen this happen to his family. Tammy had been portrayed as the difficult sister who wouldn't change, while ignoring the deep trauma and emotional struggles that led to her overeating. Amy had been shown as the responsible one, without acknowledging the chaos behind the scenes. And now, Chris and Brittany were being edited to make them look like the villains, all because they wanted a storyline to keep viewers hooked. It wasn't the drama with his sisters. He could handle that. He had handled it his whole life. It wasn't the constant camera presence. He had gotten used to that. It wasn't the scrutiny from fans. He understood that came with the territory. When 1,000-Pound Sisters first started, it was a small show with a niche audience. But as it grew in popularity, the network started making more money. Lots more money. And the cast members started seeing less and less of it. According to multiple sources close to the production, Chris and his family members had been in contract disputes with TLC for some time. They hadn't signed contracts with TLC, one insider revealed. They were in negotiations, but the network wasn't offering them what they deserved. The tension had been building for years. The show had made TLC millions of dollars in advertising revenue, streaming fees, and international licensing deals. But the people actually appearing on the show, the people who opened up their lives to the cameras, the people who shared their most vulnerable moments with the world, they were getting a small fraction of that. Adding to this tension, there was also the strain within the family itself. Not just the usual bickering, but serious fights that escalated well beyond what viewers saw on screen. There were reports of huge fights while filming, which made the crew uncomfortable. One insider said the argument turned physical and the family really got into it, forcing cameras to take an extended break from filming to let the cast cool down from the heated brawl. The pressure was mounting from all sides. Chris was being squeezed by the network and by the familial obligations. He was responsible for his wife, his stepchildren, his parents, and his siblings. He had poured his heart and soul into this show for years, and he was watching as it consumed everything and everyone around him. I was caught in the middle, Chris said. TLC wanted one thing. My family wanted something else. And I was trying to keep everyone happy while also trying to protect the people I love. It was exhausting. Chris and Brittany had already started to pull back from the show's narrative. When TLC tried to film certain storylines, Chris pushed back. He refused to participate in scenes that felt exploitative or that misrepresented his family. He started criticizing the producers for the editing choices, calling them out on their manipulation of reality. The tension came to a head during the filming of Season 5. Chris had been asked to participate in a storyline that he felt would hurt his family. He refused. The producers insisted. And after a heated argument, Chris walked off the set. I just couldn't do it anymore, he explained. I looked at what they were asking me to do, and I thought, this isn't who I am. This isn't what I signed up for. And I'm not going to let them turn me into someone I'm not. The network tried to convince him to stay. They offered him more money. They promised to give him a better edit. They assured him that the show would be better if he stayed. But Chris had oddly up his mind. Walking away from TLC wasn't just about the money, he said. It was about integrity. It was about being able to look myself in the mirror and say I did the right thing. And the right thing was to walk away. Since leaving the show, Chris has been focused on one thing, his family. He and Brittany are enjoying their privacy, spending time with their children, and building a life outside of the reality TV circus. He's still involved with his siblings, but on his own terms. No cameras. No producers. No manufactured drama. The show was a huge part of my life for a long time, Chris reflected. And there were some good moments. I got help for my weight. I was able to inspire other people who were struggling. But eventually, you have to ask yourself, at what cost? At what point does the price become too high? His departure from the show was largely kept quiet. TLC, being the savvy network that it is, didn't make a big announcement about it. They simply wrote Chris out of future episodes. They used body doubles for his confessionals. They pretended like he had never been there. And they moved on to the next storyline, the next controversy, the next piece of manufactured drama. But those who really knew Chris knew the truth. They knew that he hadn't just left a show. He had left a toxic environment that was consuming his soul. He had chosen his family over fame. He had chosen integrity over money. And he had done it quietly without fanfare because that's who Chris Combs is. He's not about the drama. He never was. For those who only know Chris from the show, it's easy to see him as just another reality TV personality. But the real Chris Combs is so much more than what you saw on screen. He's a man who grew up poor in rural Kentucky, fighting for everything he had. He's a man who is determined to break the cycle of obesity and early death that had plagued his family for generations. Most of my family passed away around 60 and 65, and I'm 42 now, so I'm trying to live past the 65 mark, he had said on social media, explaining his motivation for getting the surgery. He's a man who struggled with asthma, weight, and addiction, but never gave up. He's a man who went from over 480 pounds to under 350, losing 140 pounds and dropping 10 pant sizes. He's a man who finally bought the three-piece suit he had wanted since he was a kid, a suit he could never buy before because he was too big. He's a man who loves his wife deeply, who was willing to fight for her when the show made her look bad, who stood by her side through grief and loss. He's a man who worked as a McDonald's manager, helping other people find jobs and supporting his family with hard work and dedication. And he's a man who refused to let a TV show define him, who said no to the money, no to the fame, no to the drama, who had the courage to walk away from everything he had built just to protect his integrity. Chris Combs may have walked away from TLC, but his impact on 1,000-Pound Sisters and its fans will never be forgotten. He was the backbone of the show, the voice of reason in a sea of chaos, the brother who showed up when no one else would. He was the one who pushed Tammy to lose weight, even when she resisted. He was the one who took over as Amy's replacement, stepping in to keep his sister motivated. He was the one who renovated a house for Tammy, who found her a place to live, who did everything he could to keep his family together. And now, he's the one who said enough. He's the one who walked away from the cameras, the ratings, and the drama, choosing instead to focus on the things that really matter: faith, family, and integrity. "This isn't goodbye forever," Chris said, his voice filled with emotion. "I'm still here. I'm still fighting. I'm still working on myself and my family. I just don't need a camera in my face to do it." Today, Chris is focused on his next chapter. He continues to live a healthier lifestyle, and now that he's lost the weight, he's looking ahead to the future. His next step is to qualify for skin removal surgery once he loses 50 more pounds. It's not about the show or the cameras anymore. It's about living a long, healthy life for himself and his family. He's still close with Brittany, and he's still involved with his family, but on his terms, without the cameras and the production crew shaping every moment. He's been working on his TikTok and social media presence, giving fans real updates without the filter of TLC editing. And most importantly, he's happy. "I can finally see myself getting old," Chris said. "I can see myself watching my kids grow up. I can see myself being a grandpa someday. And that's all I ever really wanted. It's all I ever really needed." Chris Combs walked away from TLC not because he was broken, but because he was whole. He knew what he wanted, and he knew what he was willing to sacrifice to get it. He had been through too much, lost too much, and fought too hard to let a reality TV show take the rest of his life. His story is not just about a man leaving a show. It's about a man rediscovering himself. It's about a man choosing integrity over ratings, family over fame, and peace over chaos. It's about a man who had the courage to say enough is enough. And for that, Chris Combs deserves nothing but respect. The truth about Chris's departure from 1,000-pound sisters is more complicated than just a dramatic walkout. According to sources close to the production, Chris had been in contract negotiations with TLC for quite some time, and he simply hadn't signed anything for future seasons. In fact, when a fan asked him directly if a new season was confirmed, Chris replied that it wasn't, because he hadn't signed any contract. The network, however, continued filming anyway, creating a bizarre situation where a key cast member was being filmed without a signed agreement. This wasn't just about money. It was about control. Chris had watched TLC edit his family members into villains and heroes based on whatever storyline would generate the most buzz. He had seen his wife Brittany portrayed as cold and unfeeling when in reality, she was grieving the recent death of her mother, and he had reached a breaking point where no amount of money was worth the distortion of his family's truth. One of the most revealing moments came during a TikTok live session that Chris and Brittany did together. Fans had been critical of Brittany's demeanor on the show, calling her distant and disapproving of Chris's constant involvement with his sisters. But during the live, Brittany set the record straight. She admitted that the show's editing made her look like she didn't get along with Amy, when in reality, that wasn't the case at all. The clips viewers saw were taken out of context, and the narrative TLC was pushing simply wasn't accurate. What fans didn't know was that Brittany had just lost her mother a month before the New Orleans trip, where she appeared grumpy. She was grieving, and instead of showing compassion, the producers used her pain as content. "She gets along with Amy," one fan summarized after watching the live. "It's the editing that makes her look like she doesn't." The show's portrayal of their relationship is misleading and not what it is in real life. Despite all the drama behind the scenes, Chris's transformation remained nothing short of incredible. When he first started his journey, he weighed over 450 pounds. Getting to a healthy weight wasn't just about aesthetics. It was about survival. Chris's father had been overweight and died at a young age. Chris was determined to break that cycle. In 2022, after working with Dr. Eric Smith and proving his commitment, Chris finally qualified for bariatric surgery. It had been a goal he was working toward for over a decade. And once he got the surgery, the weight melted off. He dropped 150 pounds relatively quickly, bringing him down to about 300 pounds. But rapid weight loss comes with its own challenges.